Hey guys, welcome back to my podcast. I've got a great duo in the TC world, in the real estate investment world coming on today. I got Damian Michalowski and Evelyn Garcia. They're both coming on to talk about land trusts, what we need to do with land trust, how we need to use the land trust, but more importantly, how to be intentional with your land trust, making sure that you're protecting your asset, making sure you're protecting your privacy, make sure you're protecting your seller. And there's some ins and outs that are really interesting that I was able to hear about beforehand and just really learn. So I want to welcome both Evelyn and Damien to the stage and get y'all up to date on land trust. Oh, Damien, Evelyn, how are y'all doing today?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. How are you?
Very good, very good. I'm glad y'all came on today. I know y'all want to tell us a little bit about yourselves, get a little bit of quick background for those who don't know who you are and things like that.
Sure.
Sure. Ladies first. So I'm Evelyn Garcia. I'm the CEO of Ankle ITC. I did start my journey in 2018, wanting to fix and flip homes, and I'm in New York City. I did accomplish that goal because I did one. It was a great learning experience. And then I just went into acquisitions in New Jersey, did a couple of wholesales, and then I ventured into doing a whole bunch of little things to see where I fit in, short sales, loan modifications, and just helping a lot of homeowners get out of foreclosure process. And then I met Damien. Yeah, Damien. We met and we did acquisitions together. Been knowing Damien for about 4 years, but then he just told me about like 2 years ago, hey, we should do TC. So that's how I got thrown in here in the TC world. And it's just been uphill from then, just doing a lot of transaction coordination for a lot of clients. Um, and it's been an adventure. It's just like learning thing every single day. You're just learning something new, something new, something new, and it's like it's amazing. The knowledge that you actually cultivate doing TC work. Every transaction is always say every transaction is like a snowflake or unique. So that's pretty much it. That's my journey.
Awesome.
That's who I am.
Damien, how about you?
Nice. So now it's my turn. I always have difficulty with this question because it's like I don't know where to start, right? Because I've been doing like entrepreneurial things since I was like a little kid, right? The first thing I did was walk around the neighborhood, collected empty bottle cans, right? Because in Massachusetts, you could get 5 cents for an empty can or an empty bottle. And I knew that if I get 6 of them, I could trade it for a pack of baseball cards at the corner store, right? So that was like my first thing. And, did a lot of other things, mowing lawns, selling candy in school, buying the big bulk from BJ's and then selling them at the same price as the corner store, right? So we were like peers. Then I got into cars and I was fixing cars for people in high school. My mom bought a house with a garage, which was which was funny at the time because like not a lot of my friends actually had a garage. So a lot of them used to come, they used to hang out, they used to bring their cars, they would pay me to fix it. Went into IT. While I was in IT, I got laid off and I had already bought, it's funny, actually, a little bit reverse. While I was my first IT job, I bought a property, a condo, because I knew I didn't want to rent. And I wound up saying like, hey, because like in Boston, renting rooms has been a thing for like years and years. And it's like if you're 19 to like 27, it's like normal to rent a room. So this is back 25 years ago. So I'm like looking at renting rooms and I'm like, I'm paying somebody else for that. And these rooms are like really expensive. And like, why don't I just buy a condo and I can actually rent the room and be the owner? So I was like house hacking before like the phrase was coined. So I got into that. And then this was the weird time between 2000 and 2003 where like housing prices went up big time. And then you had the additional bump to 2007, 2008. So I was able to do a HELOC and I bought my first investment property. fast forward to that, I was in IT and I didn't really do too much. I made it up to 3 investment properties at once, and then went down to 0 because I was in a relationship, and the wife at the time, 2013 or 2008 to 2013, everyone was like, real estate investing is not cool. Long-term rentals are not cool. It's sort of trending that way now. I can see some of the ripples, but 2019, I had a tenant eviction, and somebody gave me a I don't know, come to Jesus talk, saying, hey, you gotta think of this as a business. This isn't, like find properties for your friends. It's not a party house. This is actual business. And so I took it seriously, and I had never paid for a course in my life. I was like, hey, it's not free. It's not for me. But I started spending money on different courses. And right now I'm in a part of like 10 different courses, to be honest with you, 10 different real estate investing groups and stuff. And, I own like 7 properties, and I have like 1 note out. So I also invest in notes as well. And then, I met Evelyn. We were doing acquisitions for a while, and then we transitioned into the TC world. And I actually love the TC world. And like being an engineer, it was like, where we're always learning new things, and like we're used to learning new things. And that's what we thrive on. Like, I just really enjoy it. And I really enjoy getting hit with the complex problems. And I'm also an introvert. I'm an extrovert, not an introvert, an extrovert. So I like getting to meet new people and getting into conversations and stuff like that, and taking challenges. So, and I do a lot of things out of the box, and, and I'm always up to solve creative problems. So I think that's a decent overview. And every time I say it, it comes out different. It just comes off the top of my head. I don't have it scripted or anything.
So this is the first time I hear about collecting bottles.
Oh yeah. I went way back.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what makes it good though. Like when it's not scripted, you can just sit here and go, I used to do this. That doesn't sound good. I like it. So a lot of stuff that you and I've talked about a lot, Damian, in messages is here lately has been land trust, right? And so I saw some posts in the Facebook page, the Sub2 page, and everybody's talking about land trust. There was a really long post made in January that I found where the guy was breaking down like the right way to buy things in a land trust. So it's spurring some of the questions, but for folks who don't know, like, what is a land trust? Like, why would you want a land trust?
Oh, for many different reasons. So a land trust is a I get in trouble for saying it's like an identity, but it's not a company, it's not a person. It is what it's called. It's a trust, but it's it's not. People don't like to call it an entity, right? But
right.
It sort of shields ownership, right, and creates a kind of like a little cocoon around ownership and taxability, and a little bit of a shelter. And definitely what it is privacy, right? So if you want privacy, definitely go for a trust. In real estate, right, like there's many different kind of trusts, first of all, but in real estate, most people use land trusts, and one of the more popular reasons to use land trusts are on the subject to deals, right? It's one of the vehicles to purchase a property subject to, and to keep that privacy, right? And one of the there's a well-known governmental act called the Gone-St. Germain Act, right, which says if you own a property and you deed it over into a land trust and you stay in as the beneficial interest, then a lender cannot call a loan due on sale, right? So
right.
The big thing was subject to, and it's like kind of like the big fear that doesn't happen too much. It's like you can go swimming in the Atlantic Ocean and like never even see a shark, right? But we know they're there and they're swimming around, right? But we don't like go out far enough to where we get like bit, and we protect ourselves. We stay close to shore. That's kind of like getting a land trust, right? Is so you don't get bit by the due on sale shark, right? The due on sale clause, and get the loan called due early on you. There's a bunch of benefits, other benefits than just that for a land trust. And there's some crazy things that I probably can't talk about live recorded on a podcast. But some of the other things is like if you have, it gets around the probate process, right? So if a property is owned in a trust, it's owned by the trust, right? It's not like it's deeded to the trust. The beneficiaries, it's personal property to the beneficiaries, the trust, and then the trust owns the real estate. So that never hits probate. So that's one good thing about it. There's a bunch of other things too. It's like if you want to sell. I recently had a partner, right? We bought the property in a trust, right? So we didn't sell. We didn't change the deed or anything, right? We kept the deed as is, and I just did an assignment of beneficial interest, and I paid him off. It was really a small fee because we just got into the deal and stuff like that, but I was able to give him a small fee, and then he signed the beneficial interest transfer paper, and then over to me. So now I'm 100% beneficiary of that. So you can kind of see where that goes as well, too. Yep. So, okay.
That also keeps you from transfer taxes, right? So if you're transferring it into a trust, as long as the seller stays on as one of the beneficiaries or is the beneficiary at the time of the transfer, that's another question I have later on. Then you don't pay transfer taxes.
Correct.
To the state, right? That's interesting. That's good. So one of the things I was reading from this one guy was when you go and you do the deal, right? And we're talking about subject to, or however we're doing it creative, and you list it as the beneficiary as the seller, but then you go ahead and file that document or go ahead and sign that document. You said at closing of a signing of beneficiary rights over to an LLC you have that only manages that beneficiary piece, right? Is that the best way to do it? None of that gets filed, right?
Oh, so that's version 1. That's Evelyn's favorite version, actually, to do it.
That is my favorite way to do it, but I'm not gonna say here this is the best way to do it. I found during my history of being in real estate, real estate is like cookie beans. Everybody has their way to cook beans. They have this is the best way to cook beans. So, I like to do the assignment of beneficiaries because the land trust documents will show that they are still in the beneficiary rights of this trust. And not all of us knows, but trust documents are not recorded or registered anywhere. So that's right there is where you have a benefit of having a land trust because the beneficiary rights is still showing that it's the sellers. Now, try to explain this to someone that likes to walk on that super safe zone. They don't like to walk on any glass. They don't want to keep safe. This is like right now they will be like, no, but that is not right. That is not right. But let's talk about all right, subject to is also a great kind of investment because you are taking over and you're leaving the homeowner as the owner of the mortgage. So everything is but you have to just know your tolerance of what you want to do and how you want to do it. And if you don't want to do a land trust, that's fine by me. I've done a lot of TC work where people just want to buy it under the LC. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. But I feel super safe with a land trust, especially assigning the beneficiary over to me at the back end. And those documents with me and no one else. So if the due on sale gets called, all I do is just present the land trust. Hey, the seller still has the beneficiary rights. So
gotcha. So what protects you as the buyer though, right? So like that is one thing. Nothing gets filed other than the new deed is now in the name of the trust, right? What protects you as the buyer from, say, the seller just drawing up documents and saying they own the trust, right? Like how would you know that they sold the property out from under you? What would be the
What
way
the
to know that?
what the deed? The deed is registered under the trust.
Right, but trust documents you can just make, right? So if you what if I was a scammer, right? And I just went and made some trust documents, said, "Oh, I do own this trust. See, here's my
Oh,
documents."
you're talking
How
about
would you,
like
how would you know that?
if
Yeah.
I buy this, well, the trust documents definitely has to be wet signature. It cannot be electronic signature, and it has to match. It has to match the seller, the original seller. Um, if you unfortunately this is a society where there's fraud, and
Yeah.
fraud happens, and if you're a really good con artist that you could match the signature perfectly, then unfortunately I really don't have the answer for that. But what are the odds? It's also like going to the ocean looking for the shark. What are the odds of that really actually happening? I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard
Oh
of
yeah.
anyone, you know.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. It's just I know that's a question that I've been asked before whenever I've talked about land trust. It's like, but if we don't file it, it's kind of like promissory notes, right? Or operating agreements. Wait, you don't file those. So we can
Right.
change those at any time and nobody will know. And it's like,
Exactly.
that's true. In certain deals, I've had my clients notarize the promissory, or not the promissory note, but notarize an operating agreement on LLC. And in the operating agreement states it cannot be changed unless it's been notarized again. And so that is one good way of helping protect. But that's a question with trust that I've been asked, and I thought in my head, like, what if the seller says, you know what, I want to sell this property, I can get more money, so I'm just gonna make trust documents and sell the property and no one will know. It was just a question that came up
Yeah.
from a friend of mine.
No, that's very
So
fair.
that's interesting.
No, it is.
My rebuttal too is that like you're going to have the closing packet, right? And you're going to have the trust, and maybe you'll have some assignments of beneficial interest on it. You might have some changes in the trustee, and also too that this is even this might even blow it away. Is that it depends on how the deed is recorded, right? So if they're actually doing it right, there should be a trustee's deed, right? And the trustee, and every time you change the trustee, you're supposed to actually, create a new deed, right? But
Right.
like, what happens a lot of times is that, the title companies don't know how to record it, and they just record it in the name of the trust and stuff like that. But if they do record it, Weissman actually is really good. They record it. They'll say like, 144 Main Street Trust, trustee Damian Michalowski, and then this is a revocable land trust dated this, and they put the date on there, right? So not only do you get the date, you get the trustee, and you get the address, but then you get you get the HUD, right? And your trustee is signing it. Now, the person with the fake trust, or if it is the seller, right? The way I do it is I'm usually the trustee, or it's one of my business partners that are the trustee, right, on it, right? Are you going to get me to go in and sign that again, like if it's recorded correctly with my name on there? Like, no, they're not going to be able to falsify it. And then you have records, right? So what if you put a tenant in there? So there's so much protection like against that. You have insurance papers, you put the utilities in your name, and you just show, like, say if you have to challenge this, you just show up to court with this massive stack of paper and be like, give me my house back.
Yeah.
You definitely will have a trail, like all the being a TC too as well. You have like 150 emails going back and forth.
Yeah.
And then you have the closing too, like everything is documented and signed. Title company knows who's actually signing, the notary is there.
Yep.
It's just and most trust documents are notarized. You should get your trust document notarized. And definitely that's one of the do's too, of having someone that as the trustee. It definitely should be yourself. I always put myself, or your business partner, or someone that you know that it's not going to disappear. That trustee. I don't like to put a LLC as a trustee. I seen this many times, and it's just like
Mhm.
that right there. It's just like it just looks funky to me, and I know why they do it. Because if you read read the trust documents, the trustee also could be the one that is handling the taxes. So they would want to put the LLC because they want the taxes to be under the LLC as a trustee, and those type of forms of trust documents. Um, mm, not the way that I like to go, but I've seen it happen. But I just right now just got today someone that has to do on self cause triggered, and they have the LC as a trustee, and that's just the bank will see an LC and they just automatically just assume this was a business transaction. This is definitely not an estate planning. So it's one of the things that I said, do put a trustee that you know and you definitely you know trust that person, and don't put an LLC as a trustee.
Is it better to put, like, if you're going, like, so if I'm going to be the one running the house, right? I'm going to be the one that's on all the documents to deal with the mortgage and things like that. Is it better for me to be the trustee because I'm doing all that, or have somebody else be the trustee on that property?
I always say go for always put yourself. If you don't
Okay.
have a business partner that you trust, that we all do JVs and buy properties with other people. You could put your business partner, but definitely go with yourself.
And
Yeah.
just to let you know too is that you can always you can fire the trustee at any time, and
Yeah.
you can have like a nominal
Replace.
signer, like an attorney or something like that, like just like how you have like a nominal signer for LLCs, like
Yeah.
you can get a nominal signer for your trust just to go to your closing and just to have his name on the deed instead of yours, if you really wanted to. I don't go to that extent. Like a trustee, for the most part, it can, some people look at it as the power of that they own the actual house, and then some look at it as a power of like they're a secretary. And actually, depending on how your trust is written, they could be either of those and the in between. So but the thing is that the trustee most likely in most cases is not the beneficiary, and that's a really common methodology of thinking. So most people don't think that when your name is the trustee that you're actually a beneficiary as well too. So
So does that make, so the question would be then, would the trustee, would you want somebody, like, what if the trustee dies, right? Let's just throw it out there. If they died, like, and you go to sell the house, don't you still need that trustee to sign? Or is that where you provide death certificate and rename the
Well,
trustee and all that?
in the event that does happen on your trust doc, you should name someone else to take over. In the event you die, you
yeah,
should
you
have
can
them
have,
in your trust.
you can have successor trustees, and you can have successor beneficiaries as well, right?
Yeah.
But the thing with the trustee too is that the beneficiaries can fire them usually at any time. So, well, depending on your trust agreement, but a lot of times they can just remove the trustee at any time. Especially for land trusts, how most people work them. So if they die, the beneficiaries will just take care of that and nominate somebody else. But you can do successor trustees and also successor beneficiaries as well.
Yeah, I just did that with a land trust out of North Carolina. We did the beneficiary, we did the supplemental or the second trustees for each. My client put 3 trustees on there, so we had 3 secondary trustees. I was like, wow. And then they had 3 beneficiaries, which was obviously the LLC they bought the house under, or they were paying for it. So that's interesting, but that's good to know that how that works when it comes to things like taxes, right? So Evelyn, you had brought up taxes. I get it, like, to pay taxes, but what about the tax benefits? Obviously, when you buy the house subject to and you put in your LLC, you get that tax benefit as a real estate investor. You get to claim it, the depreciation, all that. How do you do that under a trust that you don't technically own?
Oh, so yeah, that's an easy one. So you have your three choices when it comes to taxes, right? With your trust, right? You can either have the trustee do the taxes, or the beneficiaries do the taxes, or the trust itself do the taxes. So it's like you're getting the same benefits. So if you're, say, if I'm 100% beneficial interest on 123 Main Street, I'm getting the, and it's owned in a trust, I'm getting the same tax benefits as it would if I owned it in my LLC directly, as long as my trust says like beneficiaries pay, take care of the taxes, pay the taxes. So
Okay. So if you set it up for servicing or whatever, then you would just get the 1098 form for like you do for every other piece of real estate you own under like an LLC.
That, yeah, you would do, yes, correct. If the beneficiaries are doing the taxes, you would get it in your LLC, right, name.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because that's who's paying the taxes, right?
Gotcha.
But you
And
can
then the other
setting up a trust too. You it's optional to give it an EIN.
Okay. So you would prefer not to give it an EIN, obviously, because you have to go get the EIN for it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct.
And then so another one that come up, and this actually is happening to a colleague of mine in our company. He owns a property in a trust. There was some damage. They filed an insurance claim. Well, it came in the trust name. And as the trustee tried to go to the bank to cash it. They wouldn't cash it. No matter what he did, they wouldn't catch it. They said it had to go into a trustee or the trust bank account. Well, they obviously don't have a bank account for the trust because you'd be setting up an account for every single trust. So how do you get around that, or do you just set up an account for the trust?
I do. I set up an account.
I was just gonna say simple.
Yep.
If you want to cash the check, set up an account, and it's very easy. It's just it's just like opening a regular bank account.
Yeah, so I opened up one. So I just did I just went into a checkbook IRA or a checkbook 401k. So I went to my bank, and that was fun trying to get them to figure out how to set that up. But we ended up setting up, like you said, a regular business checking account because I have an EIN number with my 401k. But if you don't get an EIN number, you're not setting up a business checking account. So you're just setting it up as just a straight checking account with the trust documents. And then essentially your deposit's going to be that insurance check, right? And then you're going to take the money out of there and close the account, I would assume, unless you just want to leave it open. If it's one of those
Yeah,
things.
most people do that. They'll open it up, they'll get the check, and they'll close it.
Close it.
I
did.
So,
I did that for a wholesale deal. I put it on the a trust and opened the bank account and closed it immediately. I took the money out.
See, wholesale deals are interesting. I'm glad you said that because it seems like to me, right? So I have a new wholesale company and never thought about this till honestly, to me and you talk, Damian, on Messenger. It seems like that would be a really easy way to do a double close. Or
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's actually common.
Yeah.
It's actually common in the short sale world to do it like that. And I don't know why that hasn't jumped over into the, into the wholesale world or the, the more the investor side, but it's very common to buy a short sale in a land trust and then sell the beneficial interest right after.
You would think with how frugal wholesalers are, right? Like you look at doing it now, you've got places like South Carolina and things like that where you have to do double close, fully double close it. Then it's like, wait a minute, but if I do this way, I don't have to double close anything. I'm just the middleman that helps them make sure they get the beneficial interest assigned to them, and I take a fee for that at the closing.
Right. Absolutely.
Or I just close it under them. I got the beneficial, and then I assign it to them afterwards outside of escrow. What about title insurance? Do you still do trusts get title insurance, being it's technically still the same original owner transferring it into a trust for estate planning?
Well, yes, it's not the original owner, right? Because it's when you deed it over to the trust now owns the property, So, there's title insurance is always optional, right? But I always love to get title insurance, even if you're subtoing and selling it to a family member, right? It's like we had one where there was, there wasn't a mortgage satisfaction on a HELOC from the 1980s, and it was the father selling it to the son, and it's just so much worth it just to clean all that stuff up, get title insurance on it anyway. So I would always recommend it.
Yeah, I just run into the title insurance issue. I know y'all do too, right? With FHA and with VA, right? Right now, some title companies are starting to open back up and doing VHA loans now, but I would think that being I'm transferring my property into a land trust, then my title insurance should be easy. It's not the same as transferring the deed into like your name, because I'm still the beneficiary interest until we do the assignment at the close, right?
Yeah. So you're talking about method one. You're talking about Evelyn's method. Now, my method, I don't even show the beneficiaries I go into the title company, and usually myself or one of my business partners are the trustees, and we're signing. So the title company knows them, but they don't know who I am, right? Or they don't know who the actual beneficiaries are, and you can redact it out. And I actually have like a big block I put on there, and I'm like, redacted in this copy. And you can get bank accounts with that. You can, you can buy the property in that. The only thing you can't do with that is get a loan, right? See, like a QM loan or any professional lender, because of the Patriot Act, right? So you have to. They need to make sure that they're not funding a terrorist organization, right?
Right.
So you can act. So I've gone in and bought properties where I'm getting like a DSCR loan, where the title company gets the trust version with the redacted beneficiaries, but the lender gets the beneficiaries disclosed. That's how I buy them. So that's like version 2. That's my version. So it's a little bit different than
the only reason I don't like to redact, because a lot of title companies and bank accounts and everybody, they always give me a fight. I need to see who's the beneficiary. It could be a terrorist, and Damian likes to have that fight. I don't.
But
I don't like to be like, yes, you do. Absolutely, you do win. But I like to just like have things more easy, smooth, and selling. Let's just get this thing done. Like, I don't want to be like going back and forth to prove a point. But Damian,
yeah, it's like when I was at the bank creating an account, and they started asking me for the beneficial interest of the trust. All I do is just pull that nice plush sofa over to the desk, and I take the whole thing of lollipops, and I just sit there. I was like, I could be here all day till we finish all the lollipops. How many licks does it take?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you got your trust documents made, right? Like, you use the same trust documents for every trust you buy in?
Yes.
The one that we have.
The only thing I really change is the way that taxes are done, and it depending if I have a business partner, but for myself, I keep all the trust documents the same. So
nice.
They're templated as well too. So.
And I know a lot of other people that like to go to an attorney, but when you go to an attorney, they actually don't understand the reason and the exit strategy and why we're setting it up a land trust. And then some attorneys actually even give you the wrong type of land trust. They give you a living trust. Living trust and a land trust is totally different. I just have one attorney that we're going back and forth with, like, a living trust is not what we want, what he needs. He needs a land trust. That's one thing that you got to be educated, especially like if you're going to use an attorney, which you should use an attorney, but just get the right attorney. If you don't understand what you're doing with a land trust and this is your first time, definitely get an attorney or get someone that has been doing it for many, many years to guide you, because things could definitely go wrong. And there's absolutely nothing out there in the world, because we're in the subject to community world, but there's nothing out there that you could put in place for the bank to not say, hey, I want to know what the heck is going on here. I'm going to trigger the do not sell clause. There's nothing out there. So you could have a trust and it could be totally legit. They could still trigger it. What you need to do is just be prepared, how to handle it.
So do you store a copy of like all your clients' land trust documents just in case something happens, or do you keep them for a certain time? Okay.
I keep everything. I keep everything for my clients. But there was one the other day he sent me, hey, I'm trying to sell my property, and they give me a pushback with the land trust. It's like, what did you do? What did you do wrong? And then he sent me the email of what they requesting. I was like, me and Damian we were like, what the heck is going on here? I don't really didn't understand what they were saying. But after looking at the documents that we have for him, he used the wrong one because he set it up incorrectly, and I had to fix it up. I had to tell him, hey, you used the wrong one. That's why they push him back. You have to use the one with the red signature and the one with the right beneficiaries. So yeah, definitely keep track of everything.
Yeah, that's what I do too. I keep track of most documents. And what's funny is, I don't know how y'all do it, but we get a lot of times we have 3 or 4 PMLs on one deal, and they're like, well, I don't know who should hold the deed. I don't know who deed of trust. I don't know who should do that. And they're like, can we just send it to you? I'm like, sure. Why not? I got a big safe sitting back here. I just put it in the safe, and if they ever, with their name on it, if they ever have a problem, I can just mail it to them or take it to them if they're close. I don't like to do that, but it's kind of like, well, they're going to argue and try to figure out, well, Sam has it. Where's Susie going to get it from? So I'm the same way. Like, if they want to send me, I'll keep it.
You mean like the original
Yeah.
trust doc? Oh, no, that I don't keep for them. No, I don't want.
No. I'm sorry, not the original, not the trust I know. I'm talking about, I've like got the original deeds of trust, the wet signed that they filed with the county. They have it mailed to me because there's 3 different people across the country on it, right? So who's going to get that one copy of the wet signature? So they send it to me, and it goes in my safe. And then I'm still tied to the deal a year later when they have to do the release of the lien and all that. And I'm like, well, so, but that's interesting. Yeah, definitely keeping a copy. I guess if the wet signature was to get lost, they just re-sign a new one, right? I mean, theoretically.
Affidavit of lost note. It's not a big deal.
On the trust?
No, the note. Oh, I thought you were talking about the promissory note. Oh, on the trust, if they lose the trust, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure what would happen, but like if you keep an electronic copy, you will keep electronic copy and a paper copy, you should be okay. But but I thought you were talking about a note. But if you don't have the original note, you can do like an affidavit of lost note or whatever. With the terms or attached to a copy of it. So
that's one thing that people are very afraid of. It's like, hey, if this is not recorded, not registered, why, and I lose the trust documents, what's gonna happen? Or my house got on fire and everything I lose everything. What's gonna happen? I honestly really don't know the answer to it. But you have an electronic copy of it. You have all you have the deed. You have everything else. So I'm sure there has to be. I'm gonna look into that. What happens after that? So
yeah, we should find the answer.
Yeah, definitely find the answer to this. But I haven't. It hasn't happened to anyone that I know that's been doing this for many years, for 20 plus years. I haven't heard any stories.
Your first answer is welcome to Google Docs. Let me show you how to manage that. Save your files for you. Like that.
That's one thing that I always tell them. I say, hey, the number one and most important thing about your trust doc is that you got to keep it safe. You got to put it into like a safe deposit box, something of that sort of nature, for it to never, nothing ever happens to it. They do that? I'm like 99.99% sure none of them gets a safe deposit box or anything of that sort.
Well, I mean, and the good thing about the electronic copy is, like, if your house does burn down, you lose it, you at least have some kind of like chain of record, right? You at least have something to show, yes, I really do own this. Now, what do we do from that point forward? We'll have to figure it out, but at least I have something to prove it, because if I didn't have that, I really couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
So, Damian, I like your method. I haven't seen that before. That's an interesting method. I'm kind of like you. I'd kind of like to have that flight. Like, I just pull it up and just stare at them. And just be like, we're going to fix this. I guess on the bank account question would be like, does it matter? I guess technically, as you're the trustee, it doesn't matter what state the land trust is in, right? You should be able to open it up at your local bank.
Yeah, this is the funny thing now. I use TD Bank, and they told me this. I went into the bank in New Jersey. I just bought a property in Pennsylvania, and the trust is written in Pennsylvania, and my domicile address is Massachusetts. And they're like, yeah, we have a new policy that, we can't just open a document that has no attachment to the state in a branch that the state is in. So they said I can either go to Massachusetts or Pennsylvania. Now, if I wrote the trust as a New Jersey law trust, or trust written by New Jersey code and law, instead of Pennsylvania, I could have opened an account there. So, but it's weird. I could, but that's a TD Bank rule, right? So
Yeah.
what I did is I just went to Pennsylvania and I opened it up there, the account there. But
Yeah.
the first time I've had that come up. And they just changed that rule a couple months ago.
It almost makes you wish like you could just do a relay bank account if it's just to cash an insurance check, right? Just put in relay and hit go, but you can't do that without an EIN number.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's notes are, I mean, not notes, trusts are very, notes is another thing we could talk about at another time, but trusts are a very interesting thing. Like I see where people are all against them and I see where people are for them. And I think you made a post about that, Damian, how some people are truly against them. And I know one of the things is asset protection, right? Like it only protects that one asset. I saw this lawyer, I think his last name's Kuntz. He said that you should take your trust and wrap it in an LLC. And I was like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose. Then just buying an LLC, why buy in a trust, right? Other than anonymity, why buy in a trust? I think he said Florida is the only state where the trust gives you the same asset protection as an LLC, a land trust.
I'm not really sure what you mean by like wrapping it in an LLC, but the way I do it, right? Like my LLC is the sole beneficiary, right, of my trust most times. I have one where I'm 50-50, my LLC and my partner's LLC, and then I have one where my personal name is on it, 99%, and then the seller's name is on it. That's because he chose to call the bank. And that's another, I should probably talk about that one too. But yeah, as far as asset protection, you get more asset protection with an LLC, but you get more privacy with a trust. But
I got you.
Asset segregation, though, right? If you have one LLC and it's the beneficiary of like 10 trusts, and you have you walk in, you buy it, the beneficiary is redacted at the time of close, and you don't get a loan, no one's going to know that there's an LLC behind that except your accountant,
Interesting. Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
I now like your method even more.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. Nobody knows. Interesting. So when your guy called the bank, you had to put him on your land trust?
Yeah, this is a very funny story, and I'll speed it up for you. So we had I was buying a property right outside of Jacksonville. It happened to be in Georgia, but the guy, sort of a bird dog guy, brought me the deal. Actually, he's a real estate agent. He's very knowledgeable, not a bird dog guy, but he just didn't know how to do subject to. He was lost, and I came in and, I closed the whole thing. I kept him in the loop the whole time. He was on all the Zooms with me and everything. And he was like, hey, my business partner uses this one attorney to close in Florida. She's also licensed in Georgia. So we, I don't know anyone there at the time. Now I do, but we used her. And, we'd hear this like every once in a while, like, hey, did you get the papers for the assumption? I'm like, no, this is not an assumption. This is subject to. I'm basically leaving the lien and taking over the payments. And we get to the closing, right? We're on this video close. It's like in the beginning of COVID. And she doesn't show up, right? So I go to the seller. I don't know what's going on. Like I call, then she calls the seller and she's like, hey, we can't do this. There's something not right. Call the bank. You need permission. So he calls the bank without even talking to me, right? And then I'm like, oh, then I called him, and I'm after I talked to the attorney, and she said she told him to call the bank, and the she wasn't familiar with how to do this, and she didn't think it was right, and she only knew about assumption. And I'm like, I told her, like, what I tell a lot of title companies that don't understand is that you just list it as an exception, right? I'm not asking for title insurance on this loan, just list it as an exception. And usually that's what they're like, oh, okay, I understand. But she got mad at me. She's like, oh, you want to play an attorney now? And, that's kind of how the call ended. And so anyway, so I talked to the seller, and he goes, hey, like, I called the bank. They didn't really understand. Like, do you mind like calling the bank together, right? And I called them and I said, hey, this said, hey, Jeffrey, hey, my name is Jeffrey. I own this property, and I'm calling you back. It's an actual point of contact, right? A person
Right.
he spoke to before, and he said, like, I got this other guy on the phone, Damian Michalowski, and I said, so it said, oh yeah, I can explain it to you. He's like, basically, we're just deeding the property in a trust, and Jeffrey is staying on his beneficial interest. And he's like, is that okay? It's it's very common where I'm from. And she's like, oh yeah, we do it all the time. And this was Navy Federal, like it's a pretty big bank. He was a veteran and everything. And that was all I said. Phone call over, and he was totally comfortable with it. And I said, you know what, we can find somebody else that will close the deal. So I went to Weissman in Atlanta, and they closed the deal, no problem. But he's still in there at 1% beneficial interest. So at some point in time, when that sub 2 loan ends in 13 years from now, because it was nice, I took it over 15 years out of 30. He'll get like a couple grand, and I'll buy him out of the beneficial interest.
Nice.
So
that's another of my do's and don'ts. It's like when you're buying it right with a land trust, do call the bank and let them know, hey, I just transferred the deed into a land trust, and here's the document if you need it. Da da da. Call them up and let them know. With buying an LLC or your name, you don't call the bank, because that's gonna definitely, that's just like common sense. You're not gonna tell them, hey, I just bought the property under LLC. They're gonna think that you're nuts and cuckoos, and they're gonna call it loan due. But when you're buying a land trust, that's something that you actually should do. You should actually call the bank and let them know. So, and when they see it, they're not gonna be like alert. What is going on here, and for the loan due.
No, absolutely. I agree. The more and more I've learned about land trusts, the more I like the idea of using them. I just know, like I said, I've seen all the arguments and disagreements for not using them. I've seen them for using it. So it's good to talk to people who've done a lot of land trusts. Like we've done a ton, but we've used attorneys. Like the one I did in North Carolina, obviously they used Harry Marsh, and he drew up all the paperwork and did all that for them. And then we do a bunch of them in Texas right now. And then I've got a VA. Another good thing is I've got a VA house that I'm about to buy, and it was trying to figure out how to do that, because they have not the down payment, but the disability tax credit, and they're getting deployed for like 4 years. And so I don't really want to lose this, like an $8,000 credit every year. I don't want to lose it. So it's trying to figure out how do we get to keep that. And I think the best way would be putting it in a trust, and that's still theirs, and
right,
going that route.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you could sleep at night.
Well, I really don't. I don't care about that $8,000 a year tax break. I want to keep, and they don't pay any property tax, right? So that's or not any they don't pay any no property tax. So I'd like to keep that in place. I know it's hard because it's a homestead thing, and it goes if they move their house, but they're going to Germany for 4 years. So if I can keep it for 4 years, that's 32 grand. I get to keep my account, and then I'll take it over later. I'll pay it. Well, guys, I really do appreciate it. Y'all have anything else y'all want to close with, or tell people how they can find y'all?
Just like Lion King. Remember Scar? Like, trust me with trust. That's what I'll end with.
Yeah,
that's all. Well, I really do appreciate it, and it was great. It was great getting to talk and learn, and hopefully some folks will get something out of it. Like I said, they'll call y'all or contact y'all. Put your contact information in the description. So
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Man, thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
It was great. Hey, I'll end it up. I'll